As a next level leader, I believe you can become better than you ever thought you could be. The key is to figure out what your blind spots are and get them out of your way. Let's get started. This is The Blind Spot. Hello, friend. Thanks for listening to today's episode of The Blind Spot with Deb Seymour. I am really excited that you tuned in because I hope to share some great insights that will help you if you're looking to create a leadership development program in your business or for your team. And I want to share my top 5 insights that I used over my past year, my first year in business for myself when I created these leadership development programs for clients that hired me. And I just want to pass it along, and hopefully you can do something similar and really make an impact for the people that manage your most important resource, your teammates. So here we go. So top 5. The first is that you need to create buy-in. And where buy-in happens is when you have people from the top that are very involved, highly involved, and support everything that you are doing as the development specialist. So, for example, one of the companies I worked with, the president, the corporate HR manager, and the VP of operations were always involved in the workshops. And they actually enjoyed them so much that they stayed for the entire time, which I loved. I think that just having their presence was really magical because they were able to support the team with their learning. They were able to see the opportunities for development with their team. And they were really involved with connecting why it was important that they had leaders developing their skill sets as it related to the growth of the business. You know, you could also do things where if there's a way to connect an action plan, or if there is a tangible metrics that you're trying to support and impact, you could connect buy-in that way. And then the other way that I like to help create buy-in is to encourage conversations between the participants that are part of the class with what their manager can do to support them. And if we ever worked together, you know that I'm all about what happens before class being the most important thing. So if you could create something that gets some excitement, gets them thinking a little bit about what the topic is going to be and have a conversation with their manager, that would be best. The after the class is always second in my mind as far as the importance. And what are they going to do afterwards? And what kind of conversations are going to happen afterwards that will also connect what that person learned in the workshop with what's going on with their role in the company. And then third in line would be obviously the workshop itself. So I know that this is part of a system that a lot of professional trainers follow. So the before, the after, and then the actual class, it goes in that order as far as importance. But buy-in is huge. That's number 1. Number 2 of my top 5 would be cadence. You need to consider the cadence of a workshop. And if it's over multiple months, that you need to look at where you're going to keep the momentum going. I loved working with this other company where we did something every 2 weeks. And so we would have one part of the month, we would have a workshop for 3 hours. And then 2 weeks later, we would have what I called an office hour. And that would just keep everything top of mind. And it would allow the participants to practice what they learned with me. And then we would talk about it 2 weeks later, and they would have a little bit more of like the real world of what happened on the job. And we could then discuss what it was like and provide feedback and share some insights. So you got to think about cadence. Anything more than a month is where you're going to see a drop. And, if you were having a 3-part workshop, I would not do anything, every 3 months. I would do something monthly, and I would try to have some communication in between those workshops. If you work with someone who wants to just, and in quotes, cover the content all in one day, that's a big red flag for me. You're basically wasting your time and your money. People don't learn that way. So you need to sprinkle all this learning in a way that gives people time to digest the information, practice it on the job, and then reflect and review later on. So cadence is really important as well. Number 3 would be involvement. If you do have a leader that wants to be involved, that's wonderful. I would try to have that leader understand their role for the support in learning and look at how they can either kick off or help end the workshop. And if they are involved with the whole time, the whole day they're going to be with you, help them understand their role to allow their team to learn. You want to create an environment where people will want to speak up and share ideas and collaborate. And I know a leader may want to share their wisdom, but this is a training or a workshop, and this is where there's an opportunity for these participants to learn. And they'll learn by actually sharing their own ideas. So have involvement, but also understand the best way to utilize that leader. All right, number 4 is the actual content. I'm a big fan of almost like a 2-part approach where I love having almost a like a group coaching concept happening where people are learning about themselves so that they can lead themselves better, and then they can lead people and then the business better. And I also like to have a thread of something that people can follow along from one workshop to the next. For example, an easy one would be to consider the employee growth cycle. If you are doing something with leadership development, you could also connect from the first workshop to the end, what it's like for an employee to come on to that team and work with those leaders. And so you're applying leadership development. At the same time, you're also creating management development where people are able to see what it's like if they have a new employee to their team, and what it's like for them, and they can connect the dots a lot easier. So you want to be creative, but you don't want it to be overwhelming where you're jumping from one topic to another and finding it difficult for the participant to follow along. So a little bit of structure in that content is going to be helpful when it comes to learning. And that leads me to number 5. I call this make it stick. When you create content, you want to do it in a way where there's insight. And I call it like the light bulb that goes off. And as a trainer, I could definitely see when that would happen with the people in my workshops. So people like to learn about themselves, and they like to learn in a fun way. They like to learn where there are activities. They like to learn from each other. They like to move around the room. If you're doing something on Zoom, which is what I had to learn, I had to learn how to be very interactive on Zoom and come up with some fun ways to keep the energy going. And that's where the magic happens. People will remember something more about the experience if it was different. If you're listening and you were part of any of my workshops, you probably remember I would have you draw pictures, or I had Legos. So we used to do fun things to get you to remember the actual content that I was training you, or the insight I was helping you learn about yourself. But I did it with adding a level of creativity that you would look at and say, oh, this is different. I'm seeing something that's not the norm in a typical professional training class. So you gotta make it stick by having fun and bringing in something creative. So there you have it. Top 5. First is create some buy-in. Second, have some cadence. Third, have leadership involvement. The fourth is to think about your content and thread a way to connect, or thread something to connect it from one workshop to another. And number 5 is make it stick by being creative. If you ever want to talk and have some ideas yourself and you just want to run something by me, I would love a phone call or an email. Please reach out. That would be a lot of fun for me to hear what's going on in your world. And maybe there's an idea or two that I can share with you. I hope you enjoyed this. Go have a great rest of your day and go be great. What did you learn about yourself? What in this conversation got you thinking, maybe there's something to that? That's your blind spot. Continue this conversation with me. Send an email to hello@debraseymour.com. Now, go be a great leader.